In the spring of 2022, a group of Russian soldiers loaded roughly $5 million worth of farm equipment onto transport vehicles and hauled it more than 800 kilometers from a dealership in Ukraine. Combines, tractors, high-end machines. They got them all the way home, and then they turned the key and nothing happened. Not a mechanical failure, not a dead battery. The machines had been switched off remotely, from a screen, by the manufacturer, from another continent. The thieves were left standing next to $5 million of iron they could not start. Now, most people heard that story and cheered, and I understand why. But I want you to sit with the part nobody cheered about. If a company can reach across the world and shut off a combine sitting in a field it does not want it running in, then the machine in your shed has that same switch. And the only thing standing between you and a dark screen is that so far, the company has decided not to use it on you. Here is the fact that matters, and it is not a rumor from a forum. It is the company's own legal position. John Deere contends that a customer can never fully own connected machinery because Deere holds exclusive rights to the software that runs it. Read that again. Not the steel, not the engine, the software. And since the machine will not run without the software, and Deere owns the software, the question of who really owns your tractor has an answer you did not agree to when you signed. That capability, the one that stranded the thieves in Ukraine, works because of a GPS receiver that always knows where the machine is, and software that can reach it like a computer. Your machine has both. Let me say one thing, and then I will not bring it up again. I spent 11 years behind a dealer parts counter before I went back to farming full-time. I put everything I learned about how to reduce what a company can control on your own machine into a manual called the Equipment Freedom Manual. It is at getacheron.com, and the link is in the description and the pinned comment. If you want it, it is there. That is all. Now let me be careful and precise about what this switch actually is, because this is exactly the kind of subject where people get it wrong and lose the argument. The remote disable is not some separate box bolted onto the machine that you could unplug if you wanted to. It is baked into the guts of the tractor. It runs through the same connected system that handles guidance, diagnostics, and the software updates the dealer pushes to your machine. The same pipe that lets a dealer read a fault code from 200 miles away is the pipe that can, in principle, reach in and stop the machine. You cannot have the modern connected tractor, the one that maps your yields and steers itself down the row to the inch, without also having the capability that shut off those machines in Ukraine. They are the same system. The convenience and the control are the same wire. Now here is where I have to be honest with you about what Deere actually does versus what it can do, because the gap between those two things is the whole story. And if I overstate it, you will rightly call me on it. Deere does not go around bricking the tractors of paying farmers who fell behind on a payment or complained too loud. I have seen no credible evidence of that, and I am not going to tell you it is happening because it is not. The remote disable, as far as anyone has documented, gets used against theft, like it did in Ukraine. On its face, that is a good thing. Nobody weeps for the man who stole a $5 million combine. But watch what that reasoning does when you follow it one step further. The argument for the switch is always about the bad guy, the thief, the looter. And it is a good argument, right up until you ask a simple question. Who decides who the bad guy is? Because the capability does not know the difference between a Russian soldier and a farmer in a dispute with his dealer. The switch is the same switch. The only thing that changes is the judgment of whoever holds it. And that person does not sit in your county. He sits at a company that has already told a court in writing that you do not fully own the machine. Let me put a real number on how much of your machine is actually software now. Repair restrictions tied to that software are estimated to cost United States farmers around $4.2 billion a year. That is not the cost of the machines. That is the cost of not being allowed to fix them without going through the channel the software forces you into. $4.2 billion a year is what the lockout costs measured across all the farmers living inside it. And the same software that generates that cost is the software that holds the switch. And here is what tells you how tightly that control is held. Farmers have had to break into their own machines to get around it. In August of 2022, at a hacking conference in Las Vegas, a researcher who goes by the handle Sick Codes stood on a stage and showed a John Deere display he had fully taken over. He had gotten root access, complete control of the operating system on a John Deere 4240 display. And to prove just how completely he owned it, he ran a farm-themed version of the old video game Doom on the tractor screen. A combine driving through a field on the dashboard of a machine that is not supposed to let you touch its software at all. Now the game was the joke. The point underneath it was dead serious. To get in, he had to physically open up the guts of the controller and modify the circuit board to bypass the dealer authentication. It took him months. And once he was in, the machine simply handed over more than 1.5 gigabytes of diagnostic logs, the kind of information meant only for authorized service providers. Everything on that display, we are told, runs as root, with almost nothing properly encrypted. The lockout that stands between a farmer and his own machine turned out to be a wall a determined man could climb, but only by cracking the machine open and voiding everything in the process. And here is the part that tells you which side the company is on. The same researcher had, in an earlier year, disclosed security holes to Deere. Deere patched them. Sounds responsible until you understand what patching them did. It closed the exact openings farmers might have used to customize or fix their own equipment. He said afterward that he had gotten angry emails from people telling him that because of his disclosures, their machines could no longer be repaired. Fixing the security holes and closing the repair openings were, in this case, the same act. The lock got tighter, and it got tighter in the name of security. Subscribe so more farmers hear this. You paid for it, you should know who can shut it off. So how did we get to a place where a company can tell a farmer in court that he does not own the tractor sitting in his own shed? It did not happen all at once. It happened one feature at a time, and every single feature was sold as a benefit. First came the diagnostics. The machine could tell you what was wrong with it. Wonderful. Then the machine could tell the dealer what was wrong with it, from a distance, before you even called. Also wonderful, on a good day. Then the fixes for some of those problems required the dealer's software to clear, because the machine would not let you complete the repair yourself. Less wonderful, but you were already 3 features deep and it was too late to go back. Then guidance. Then the yield mapping. Then the subscriptions, where features already built into the machine you paid for sit locked until you pay again to turn them on. Every step was a real capability that really did help, and every step also handed a little more control from the shed to the screen. And here is the piece most farmers never think about until it bites. The control does not just live while you own the machine, it follows the machine. When you go to sell that tractor, the next buyer inherits the same arrangement. He does not fully own it either, which means the software lockout does not just cost you while you are running the machine. It costs you again when you try to sell it, because the next man down the line knows he is buying into the same cage, and he prices your machine accordingly. The switch reaches into your resale value years after you stopped needing the dealer at all. You have watched this exact pattern in other corners of your life, and you did not like it there either. The phone that will not let you replace your own battery. The software you used to buy once and now rent forever. The car that locks a feature already sitting in the dashboard until you pay a monthly fee to switch it on. The farm equipment industry did not invent this. It imported it. It looked at what the technology companies had done to ownership and decided the same thing would work on a combine. The difference is that when your phone will not turn on, you lose an afternoon. When your combine will not turn on during a harvest window, you lose the year. Now the honest part, and there is a real other side here, because this one gets stretched into something it is not, and I would rather you hear the limits from me. First, the remote disable being used against theft is genuinely defensible. On farm equipment, theft is a real and expensive problem, and a manufacturer having a way to render a stolen $5 million machine useless is not by itself a villainous thing. If someone steals your machine and Deere can brick it, you are glad the switch exists. I am not going to pretend that is not true. Second, and this is important, I have not shown you a case of Deere remotely disabling a paying customer's machine out of spite or to force a payment, because I do not have one and I will not manufacture one to make this video scarier. What I am telling you exists is the capability and the legal position behind it, not a pattern of abuse. Those are different things, and an honest man keeps them separate. The concern is about who holds the switch and what they have already claimed in court, not about a wave of bricked tractors that is not happening. Third, the connected technology is not all a trap, and plenty of farmers get real value out of it. Remote diagnostics can save a service call. Guidance genuinely reduces overlap and input costs. Yield mapping helps some operations make real decisions. If you run that technology and it pays for itself on your farm, you are not a fool, and I am not telling you to rip it out. I am telling you to understand the trade you made, because most farmers were never told there was a trade at all. What I will stand behind is the core of it. A company has told a court that you do not fully own the machine you paid for because it owns the software, and it has demonstrated, in Ukraine, that the software can reach across the world and shut a machine off. It is legal, it is baked into the guts of the modern tractor, and the only thing standing between any connected machine and a dark screen is the judgment of a company that has already decided, in writing, that the machine is not entirely yours. And this is why the older machines have quietly become the most wanted iron in the country. A tractor built before all of this, before the connected systems and the software locks and the remote capability, is a machine that answers to exactly one person, and that person is whoever is holding the key. There is no screen that can reach it, no subscription that can switch off a feature you already paid for. No company that can tell a court it owns the part of the machine that makes it run. When a farmer pays a premium at auction for a pre-software combine, he is not being sentimental about old iron. He is buying back the one thing the new machines quietly took away, which is the certainty that the machine will start because he decided it should and for no other reason. That certainty used to come free with every tractor. Now it is a thing you have to go find and pay extra for, and it is getting more expensive